Tessa Johnson over to Raven Johnson as the Gamecocks control the tip. So South Carolina, who walked out of College Station a little bit closer than people expected in that 71-56 win over the Aggies.
Well, Joni Taylor, Texas A&M, came out in a zone trying to keep South Carolina out of the paint. That's the way Mississippi State has come out, but right away you see South Carolina attack.
Well, you mentioned the 28-point game, back-to-back 20-plus point games for Joyce Edwards as she gets the Gamecocks on the board. Meanwhile, Mississippi State 16-7 overall, 3-6 in conference play, trying to wipe away that loss against Missouri last Sunday.
And the defense for South Carolina, though, making it really tough for Mississippi State.
So much so that a shot clock violation on the opening possession for the Bulldogs, and they hand it right back over to South Carolina. On the floor for the Gamecocks starting five, Raven Johnson, big-time winner. Isla McDowell with her first career start.
You look at Carissa Richardson and Favor Wadozie, they are very rarely leaving the paint. Those two are really zoning things up. The other three matching up on the perimeter.
Paying a lot of attention inside to number 11 in white, Medina Okot, going against her former team, as nearly saved in a shot clock violation against the Gamecocks. Short-handed, as that's been one of the storylines for South Carolina this season. Chloe Kidd's out for this season. Taniyah Latson out with a leg injury for a second game in a row, along with Agat McKeer.
Well, especially not having Taniyah Latson, she really she is responsible for about 26% of the Gamecocks offense. She scores 15.2, but she's also got terrific court vision.
The step through from Carissa Richardson, and you talked about just the way that she has blossomed in SEC season thus far for the Bulldogs.
Well, you look at Carissa Richardson, she's been plus 20. She was plus 20 in both Tennessee games and plus 20 in that last game against Missouri. She's got to produce like that tonight. Joyce Edwards just carrying over from what we saw Thursday, the first 4 points for South Carolina. This team is understanding where and how to get the ball to Joyce Edwards, and spacing is key. You give her lanes, don't just give it to her and watch. You've got to space out to give her room to work. Sophomore sensation out of Camden, South Carolina, in the conversation for National Player of the Year as the season started. Inside to Medina Okot. Okot is fouled on the way up. But you also like to see how Edwards is getting going early in this one. Well, the luxury of having a player like Joyce Edwards is you can move her around. So far this season, you've seen her start at the 5, then she started at the 4. Throughout the game, Dawn Staley may even go with a big lineup and move her out to the 3. And I said, Dawn, what gives you the comfort in being able to use that versatility? And she said, Joyce Edwards is just a baller. Medina Okot, who had come off the bench the previous 3 games, getting the start against her former team. And she has been terrific from the floor coming into tonight. 13 of 14 shooting from the field. And she rolls around a couple of free throws. Well, I think Okot is really finding a comfort level of chemistry. And this team is getting used to playing with a player that size again. Meanwhile, Madison Francis, one of the bright promising stars in the league, pulls up from the elbow. Jumper no good. Rebounded by Tessa Johnson. Johnson, who was red hot to start last game, knocked down 5 triples, the season best for the junior. Yeah, in that first quarter, she was 4 for 4 from the 3-point line. And I love watching Tessa Johnson play. She plays with joy. Players that I see smile when they play and that bounce, that's just fun to watch. Never seemingly having a bad day, no days off can be taken in the SEC. McDowell off the mark from 3. And Destiny McFall comes up with it up ahead, and Johnson gets it right back. Gamecocks in transition. They like to score a lot when they're out and running, and Joyce Edwards with the and one. Think about what Joyce Edwards did. She was just like, yeah, that's exactly what we expect her to come in and do. Yeah, you're right. When you look at the adjustments that South Carolina has had to make, Raven Johnson is the only returning starter from last season. So really everybody on this team is playing a new role except for Johnson.
A 7-0 run for South Carolina. Another chance to extend their lead here. Johnson. Caught way out.
Well, Edwards has got a mismatch with McFall on her.
They go inside to Okot on the baseline. Really throws it away. Johnson swings it over inside to Edwards. Got to put a shot up before the shot clock expires. And the violation goes against South Carolina. Second turnover for the Gamecocks.
Now, with the ease that South Carolina was able to score in the beginning of this first quarter, that's a win for Mississippi State to get a shot clock violation against South Carolina. Now, can his team build on that and put back-to-back defensive stops together?
So far, slow start from the field, just 1 of 4 for the visiting Bulldogs. And Isla McDowell, great defense there, comes away with the steal. 4th turnover now for Mississippi State.
Yeah, Mississippi State's going to have to do a better job of getting into their offense. And one of the things, we were here about a week ago, the Vanderbilt game. Vanderbilt not committing to beating your person off the dribble.
Open look for McDowell, no. And a foul under the basket. It's going to go against Carissa Richardson.
See, this looks like a little friendly fire there. Tessa Johnson was setting a screen, her own teammate.
Johnson on the inbound. Oh, nice pass. McDowell recovers and puts it in. Isla McDowell, first 2 points of the game, where she has been sharp over the last 3 games or so, shooting 56% from the floor, now stretching out the lead to 9 for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, Dawn Staley cannot be complimentary enough of that freshman. McDowell so really trusts her decision-making, and she's going to be in the right place on both sides of the basketball.
Richardson thought about it, guarded by Edwards. Good defense there, tough shot, contested. And Okot comes down with the rebound.
South Carolina worked a lot in shoot-around of a rhythm together, getting movement, moving the basketball. Right now, Mississippi State trying to be disruptive there.
Johnson trying to drive baseline, turn around. How does she do it? Raven Johnson with a tough turnaround, 11-0 run for the Gamecocks. Madison Francis with the take to the hoop. It rims off. Richardson is right there. Second chance opportunity. And seeing the ball go through, very important.
Well, here's the difference. At the start of the quarter, Mississippi State dribbling around the perimeter. Madison Francis turned the corner and made that attack to the rim. That opened up and created a rebounding opportunity for Richardson.
Inside to Okot, double team, tough shot. Rims out, gets her own rebound. Too strong on the putback.
Madison, Raven Johnson making a tough move there all over Prater to get the finish. I think that Raven Johnson's just, her stock to go to the next level continues to rise. She's putting up career numbers, scoring, field goal percentage, and I love how she runs this team.
True leader, you mentioned the lone return starter for this group, a winner all throughout. Anything she touches or a part of, she's had great success.
See, watch her eyes. She is scanning to find how she can advance the basketball before the defense can get set.
Alicia Turnaby's in the ball game, the 6'7" woman from France, as Edwards backing down and putting it in. And that's just a glimpse of what Joyce Edwards can do. That's why she's so tough.
That just tells you about her lower body strength, because she was all the way down on the floor and got up and able to score it.
Well, Sam Purcell coming into today's game, understanding that this was going to be a tough challenge, felt good about his group, understanding they had already taken down Kentucky and Tennessee in the conference. And they said, well, among the things that we need to do, obviously rebound the basketball, because that's what we do very well, right? And have a plan within their communication. What have you seen from them more so defensively and what they need to do to make adjustments against South Carolina?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I think it starts on the offensive end. I don't feel like they're 100% sure how they want to score the basketball. And if you have any doubt against South Carolina, they are going to pick you apart, and they're heading the other direction. I think they've done a pretty decent job when defensively they're in the half court.
Edwards sets the screen. Johnson pulls back out. Edwards crossover, and an offensive foul goes against Joyce Edwards.
And what we saw Sam Purcell do, change up his defense. He switched away from leaving the two posts in the paint and started zoning up to just going a traditional man-to-man defense.
We talk about just the newness for this Mississippi State team. 9 newcomers to this group. Sanaya King among them. Destiny McFall has been around the block a time or two. The triple falls for the 5th-year senior.
Yeah, with South Carolina trying to use this big lineup and going a 1-3-1, but McFall and Trayana Crisp for Mississippi State, look, they've been knocking down those 3 balls.
They've got 6'7" Turnabees, 6'5" Adele Tack, and then they've got the sharpshooter Tessa Johnson, who can't connect from outside. McFall feeling it in transition, leaves it short. And Maddie McDaniel, a.k.a. Mouse, going right at McFall. Offensive rebound, another opportunity. Tessa Johnson catches in. Well, Johnson, 46% from three-point range, leading all SEC shooters. And then she comes up with the steal. Finds McDaniel and just overthrows it. On fire. She takes a breather for a second. 10-point lead. Nice find inside McFall to Francis.
Yeah, in order to relieve pressure, what do? Backdoor cuts, back screens. You got to get something to the rim.
McDowell knocks down another from downtown. Second three-pointer of the quarter. Here's Prater going inside. Elects to kick it back out. Sees that length. Nice find once more. Just trying to slide it in there. And Favorway Dozie is going to go to the line.
But you see Mississippi State trying to find seams in that defense. Cuts to the basket instead of playing the windshield wiper around the three-point line.
The junior out of Nigeria, Favorway Dozie, at the free throw line, averaging a double-double, 13 points and 10 rebounds coming into tonight's game. Just a reminder, coming up next, we'll see you at Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa for Cody McMahon, who has just been outstanding. She's the reigning SEC Player of the Week, taking on Jessica Timmons and Alabama. Also available on the ESPN app. Dozie takes a seat. When you think about that game coming up next, we had an opportunity to see Jessica Timmons and that Alabama Crimson Tide. It was a tough day at the office against LSU. Meanwhile,
if LSU, if they play like that against Texas tonight, oh, that's gonna be a good ball game. They hit 10 threes in that game against Alabama. LSU did.
We had that game against South Carolina coming up on Valentine's Day. Off the steal, Madison Francis can't finish at the rim, but an offensive board, and then it trickles out of bounds. South Carolina basketball.
Yeah, those are just missed opportunities for Mississippi State. You got to stay organized when you're running. If you don't have that layup, you got time on the clock.
Shot clock turned off. Final seconds of the opening quarter. Double-digit lead for South Carolina inside to Turnabees. Turns around and rims out. So 0.5 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. This is a series that has been controlled by South Carolina. They've won the last 7. Mississippi State looking to try to knock off the number 3 team in the country. They've got some work to do as that one heaved up at the buzzer, and it comes to a close in the first quarter.
The different positions that Dawn Staley plays. Joyce Edwards right now with this lineup with Tack and Okot in the game. Joyce Edwards is playing the 3 along with Maddie McDowell, Daniel, and Isla McDowell.
It's a lot of M's in that
It's
one.
a lot,
Max.
right?
On the baseline, and Jayla Lampley, who checks into the ball game, picks up her first 2 points of the game. Do you anticipate seeing more of Joyce Edwards at the 3 as the season wears on for Dawn Staley, and what does it provide?
Well, it gives South Carolina a huge advantage rebounding-wise, but unless Joyce is going to continue and teams defend her from the perimeter so she can pass, it could clog the paint.
That one rolls around for Adele Tack. Tack with her first points of the game. 12 paint points already for South Carolina. McFall swings it over to Richardson. Richardson, they'd like to see her get going. The aggressiveness there. She's got 4 points already. We'll try to tack on some more at the free throw line.
Yeah, I think that Carissa Richardson's got to get more opportunities for Mississippi State, and especially getting downhill and letting her work. She's got a terrific spin move in the paint, but that helps her to get that bounce because she's been playing really well as of late.
Well, just to let you know, gymnastics takes over the SEC network every Friday night, and what a doubleheader we have for you. Georgia, Arkansas, top 10 matchup. You'll see them all throughout the SEC, Alabama and Oklahoma as well. That's coming up Friday. You can also catch it on the ESPN app as well.
Now, Mississippi State, I think back in that zone, you're going to watch the post players. Richardson and Wadozie battling inside. You want to keep 2 inside so that you can try to rebound with South Carolina.
Single digits on the shot clock. Position for Okot. Good ball movement. Kicked out. McDowell. Open 3. She hits. Dial it up from the 8-0-3.
And the versatility, yes, you got to worry about the bigs of South Carolina, but they got shooters.
And that has been something that has constantly improved under Dawn Staley. Once she made that adjustment to needing some more outside, as that take from Madison Francis, a good look there.
You know, the thing about the size of South Carolina, too, Okot and Top, they can defend away from the basket as well. They don't just have to stay in the paint.
Tried to jump it. Lampley almost got to it in a 3-second violation against the Gamecocks. On their previous possession, they were able to move the ball around well here, Carolyn.
Well, you see the double team into the post, but Joyce Edwards with the presence of mind to know that McDowell is down in the corner. Where you're going with it before the ball comes to you is so important.
McFall with some nice handles. Baseline, kicks it over to Richardson, already with 6 points. And halfway down, pops right back out. McDaniel picks up her dribble, tries to work her way through, got caught, and a traveling violation against McDaniel. Sophomore out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, just provides a whole lot of energy when she steps on the court.
Okay, if I could take a second, because Nell Fortner's in the studio. I was her assistant at Purdue, 1997. So now, if you're listening, Lampley, number 10, on the court right now, being guarded by Raven Johnson. That is Janan Rowland's daughter, who was on that team in 1997. So now we've coached long enough that we see our players' children on the court.
Out running, and just too long for Joyce Edwards. So, I mean, do you feel? How do you feel there, Carolyn? Is that a little?
What?
But I mean, about the play. I mean, because you have the opportunity. You always talk to teams and have the opportunity to interact with the players, as we do during shoot around. They weren't even around.
Weren't born
When you won the national championship in '99.
When Jalea came over today and said, "Do you know Janan Rowland?" And I'm like, "Yes, I love Janan." She said, "She's my mom." Right.
So now Edwards back at the 4, Okot at the 5. Talk about just the interchangeability of the lineup. Too strong from Johnson. McDowell looked like there was some contact when she went up. No call, and 2.4 seconds remaining on the shot clock.
I know South Carolina didn't score in that possession, but you watch Joyce Edwards operate in that free throw line area. She knows where the openings are when that paint is clogged.
Bullies through and able to get it to fall. Joyce Edwards now already in double digits, leading all scorers with 11.
Let her go.
Richardson coming right back the other way. No, Okot grabs the board. Her 4th of the game, one of the top rebounders in the conference. And there's Raven Johnson with a nice All-American. She won herself, and this South Carolina team projected as a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament and Charlie Cream's latest bracketology.
And Joyce Edwards also just an environmental science major. Let's just add that to the pot.
BT Dub, part of the Honors College, as shot clock winding down, 5 seconds. Madison Francis can't hit. I mean, the great load that she carries as well, but how deep is the SEC? I mean, the toughest and best conference, got 11 teams projected to go to the NCAA tournament.
And I think that down the stretch is going to be key for Mississippi State. I mean, they've got to take care of business. I think that if you are 500 in the SEC, you got a shot. Okot's playing without a tennis shoe. But Mississippi State...
And she gets the basketball with the tennis shoe in her hand.
Who would pass a player the ball that's carrying the shoe? We were talking about that today, of making a pass to a player that's not looking. That's the passer's fault. I'm blaming you in film tomorrow.
Okot collects the rebound. Second chance opportunity. Tessa Johnson, no. Joyce Edwards tries to track it down. But going back to that conversation of how important this is for Mississippi State, and this is an important night overall for teams throughout the SEC. A lot of great matchups we'll see. Vanderbilt in Kentucky, Tennessee in Georgia also in the mix. That could have some top 16 bubble implications.
You look at Mississippi State's remaining schedule. They got to play Georgia, go to Arkansas, then they play Florida, got to go to Texas, got to go to Texas A&M and finish the season against LSU. Look, none of those are, you know, for sure, no, you can't win that. In this league, anybody can upset anybody on any given night, but Mississippi State, they're going to have to tie some wins together to stay in that conversation for the committee to make the NCAA tournament.
The kick out in the corner. McFall, no. And Maddie McDaniel and the Gamecocks collect their 17th rebound of the game. They are winning in that column, plus 19. Okot off the mark.
Triana Chris has got to get going, number 4 for Mississippi State. That's not a good way of turning the basketball over. This is a player that has been hot from the three-point line.
Snatching down the...
Just talking about Chris attacking from the 3, but what a gutsy play to go in over 6'6" Medina Okot.
Tough collision there and big size differential. 6'5" versus 5'8". Crisp at the line.
Look, and we just saw Sam Purcell talking to Destiny McFall, his point guard. He said, we're right there. We're not out of this. Yes, you were down 9, now 8 in striking distance. If you can close this gap going into the locker room, you can change this momentum to be in your favor.
And shooting the ball better in this quarter as they're outscoring South Carolina 11-9. But Maddie McDaniel with the take to the hoop.
Oh, she had a little stop and go in that move to the basket.
I just love to watch her and the way that she's grown up and continuing to gain more and more minutes, especially in SEC play. Well, coming your way up at the half, Alyssa, Nell, Mike, all in studio. Dogs hosting the Lady Vols, and of course, a big-time preview of that top 5 matchup in Austin, LSU, and Texas. South Carolina spends a timeout, and as we look ahead to that game coming up tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, we saw a very impressive LSU team who was out and running. Jada Richard had great command of the offense, but then there's also Madison Booker, the reigning SEC Player of the Year.
I think it's going to be a great matchup between Jada Richard and Rory Harmon. I mean, that matchup at the point, then you can go to the next level, and you've got Flau'jae Johnson going against Jordan Lee, and then to the 3, where you're talking about Madison and Michaela, and then the battle inside. And Kim Mulkey has a couple of freshmen in Kanaya Johnson and Grace Knox that are playing hungry in the paint. That's going to have to go against Carlton and Cunningham and Olaker for Texas. I mean, like, you could go punch for punch at every position in that matchup.
You think about all of the remaining schedules, you talk about just how tough it is as they lob it inside to Joyce Edwards around Wade Dozie and Rocio Jimenez, who just checked into the game. But the schedule for South Carolina, 4 of their last 5 opponents will be ranked. As King in the corner for 3, off the mark. And last touch by the Bulldogs. And so, yeah, that big February 14th matchup at LSU. That was a great game last year. I think game day is going to be in attendance once more this year in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, 4 of the last 5. Oh, yeah, Mighty Mouse getting it done.
Wait, Dozie launching from 3, no. They had it to single digits. It's expanded back out. Wonderful dish from Edwards inside to Miriam Dowda. Well, Joyce Edwards, you talked about just how well she sees the floor. 4 assists now for the sensational sophomore.
She's got an engineering mentality, so she dissects and looks at detail.
And shots not falling. 1 of 8 from the 3-point line for Mississippi State. Back the other way, just sizing up the defender, pulls up. That's Joyce Edwards now. And she's got 13 points tonight for the Gamecocks. Wade Dozie with the offensive rebound, one of the best in the league, grabbing 4 games.
Yeah, I don't think Madison Francis, she missed that last 3, but I don't know that she's getting enough looks.
And right now, just falling in love with the 3-ball is Mississippi State.
I think Sam Purcell's got to be thinking, let me get in the locker room and help this team regroup.
Blocked by Madison Francis. And Francis, one of the top blockers in the nation, leading the SEC.
We've got Edwards dissecting the defense. The way that she is reading defense, of knowing when to give it up and when to keep it and score it herself. That's just maturity on the floor.
She takes a breather, final minute of the half. And losing the basketball is tapped. Wade Dozie, just 2 points. Madison Francis with just 4. So the top scorers for the Bulldogs. They've been kind of quiet here in the first half.
I think with Madison Francis' ability to turn the corner and get to the rim, they've got to get her more opportunities in the middle of the floor.
Mississippi State hungry to see the ball go down. They've missed their last 6 shots. As Wade Dozie loses the handle, and the Gamecocks come up with it.
So McDaniel check the clock. Gonna look for a high ball screen.
McDaniel begins to make her move, collects the ball, flips it up, won't go in. Francis has a chance to heave it up from half court. And it wouldn't have been good if it did fall.
I am more like in how Joyce Edwards can get out in transition.
That is a fantastic and very weighty comparison. I like it, CP.
Well, she's just in great, that lower body strength that she has and the energy that she plays with.
Richardson able to poke it away. And Crisp, they want to see more of her. The ball needs to be in her hands more with the way that she shot it in their last outing. And a career best 6 threes Sunday against Missouri. Richardson asking for a way. Dozie nearly lost the handle and a traveling violation.
Yeah, Mississippi State's really struggling to get their offense organized because of the one-on-one accountability of South Carolina's defense.
Those of you just tuning in, South Carolina 22-2 overall. Perfect here at home. Only one blemish during conference play as they're atop the SEC standings. That was against Oklahoma in overtime a couple games back. Joyce Edwards, who did not shoot the ball particularly well against the Sooners in that game, just 25% from the floor. However, when you look at what she's done tonight, 7 of 10 from the floor and impacting the game in all ways as Tessa Johnson on the bike looking on. Remember, there was a bit of a collision earlier in the game, and
South Carolina can't afford to lose another player. Remember, Tania Latson is not playing tonight. Agat McKeer is out as well. They've already lost Chloe Kitt before the season even really got going. So South Carolina and that injury bug, it seems to be catching up with them, and they have, look, they've got a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. They got to get everybody healthy.
We talked about Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Kentucky all ranked teams as the bucket made there for the Bulldogs. And Raven Johnson flipped it up. Too strong. King over to Lampley. McDaniel. Johnson dumps it down as Okot finishes it off. Medina Okot. Again, we've talked about the way that she runs the floor, the footwork and hands. And the jump from last year to this year as she's changed jerseys has been impressive.
Well, and Okot didn't start playing basketball until she was 17. Just imagine what her upside is. Woo!
When you watch Joyce Edwards in movement, she's always in so much control. I mean, there's just the poise in which she plays with. Going back to Okot.
I love the concentration of the catch, and then to keep her feet not traveling the finish. And then at 6'6", the defensive impact that she has. I mean, Dawn Staley has always had those impactful post players. You go back to Elena Coates. You've got Asia Wilson, Aaliyah Boston, Camila Cardoso. I mean, they have just continued to roll in to Columbia, South Carolina.
The points continue to roll in for Joyce Edwards through her career, 5th fastest player to 1,000 career points, and she was able to amass that last trip at the free throw line. Johnson finds Edwards again. McDowell.
Oh, that would have been another assist for Edwards.
King bounce pass down to Richardson. Jump stop. And right now, Mississippi State just having a tough night from the floor, shooting 27%, but keeping her foot on the gas is Mighty Mouse Maddie McDaniel. When you think about the company that Joyce Edwards keep within South Carolina women's basketball and the fastest to 1,000 points between Anderson, Beth Hunt, Denise Nanny, and Shannon Johnson all did it a little bit faster than she did, but 64 games. And remember, she was coming off the bench last year.
Well, and for Joyce Edwards to get there with the talent that has been around her, I mean, when you look at, say, Shannon Pee-wee Johnson, she had to be the show for South Carolina. Joyce Edwards got help around her.
So much talent and depth on this South Carolina team. And just the championship culture, the winning nature that's been developed here. The best come to play for Dawn Staley. There's 3 national championship banners starting in 2017.
And here goes the big lineup again for South Carolina with Joyce Edwards at the 3, with Turnaby's in with Medina Okot.
That front line, you got 6'3", 6'6", and 6'7". Lampley launching from 3. No, going up over to get that rebound was the outstretched 6'3" Joyce Edwards.
And that's what I'm talking about with the rebounding advantage that South Carolina has with Edwards playing the 3. That's our first rebound of the night.
Some contact down low. This one goes against Natalia Gray. The rebounding, that's what Mississippi State has done well. 8th in the nation, grabbing 44 boards a game. But right now, they are being out-rebounded by South Carolina. Also an excellent rebounding team. Looking for another assist there to Okot. Another fantastic look from Joyce Edwards. 15-2 in this quarter. The Gamecocks are outscoring the visitors. King tries to take off the dribble, comes back out. Good defense there by Johnson. Bulldogs still able to collect. Timeout on.
Neil told us this morning how important it is to play in this game, to bring the awareness, and also to encourage people to donate for women's cancer research.
Cancer of all types impacting so many different people. And Maddie McDaniel talked about just the strength and resilience she was able to draw from her mother. And the work is never done, always needed. And you could be a part of that change. Great K. Yao, the Hall of Famer, Olympic women's basketball coach, won gold medal at NC State for 34 seasons. The Wolfpack rolling on her time, but just a courageous fight. Tough make for Madison Francis, but she needed to see the ball go in the hoop.
Mississippi State's got to continue to get the ball into the second layer of the defense. The ball has remained around that 3-point line, and good things happen when Mississippi State gets the ball inside.
So Francis, who is the leading scorer for the Bulldogs, coming out of the Buffalo area. And SEC's top blocker. Such a great young woman, but she's got to try to pump some life into this offense that has been anemic so far this quarter. And throughout the game, it has just been tough. And one of the quick ways that you could do is at the charity stripe, missing the first of 2.
Yeah, Madison Francis is the leading scorer for Mississippi State. She had 17 against Missouri.
So in a game like this, and again, it was a much closer contest against Texas A&M. This one, a little bit more breathing room for South Carolina. More than halfway through the third, as that one just zipped on over inside, and Raven Johnson just knowing exactly where her teammate Adele Tack was.
I tell you, any WNBA team that gets Raven Johnson, the post players got to be licking their chops because they know Raven's going to get him the basketball, and she enjoys doing it.
Yeah.
She just keeps an eye always to the rim and recognizing when those hands are up, she can deliver it right on time.
15 team assists for South Carolina tonight. McFall leaves it short, and Tack gets it out to Raven Johnson. You like to call her, all she does is win, because everywhere she's been, she wins, and she knocks it down from the free throw line.
Look, Raven Johnson, in her 4-year career, she's only lost 7 ball games. Single-digit losses.
When you just look at the timeline, she had to battle through a knee injury early, and then what does she do? She goes on to win a couple of national championships in the process. How she has just made everyone around her better, while she, too, has leveled up her game.
Yeah, she wasn't available to play in that first championship, but then she won one. Then she was runner-up last season, and she's got her eyes set on finishing her college career cutting down nets.
Senior out of Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, she teamed up with Tanaya Latson, who's not available tonight, at Westlake High School for some state championships.
Look, she played for a winner. Hilda Hankerson at Westlake. I used to go watch them practice in high school just for entertainment. I mean, she ran that. There's a reason that those two women, they play with great discipline and they play so hard.
Right in there, on cue is Raven Johnson, and now she's got that wonderful opportunity to play for a Hall of Famer in Dawn Staley. What a treat that's been to witness their relationship and growth. And you go back to just when they teamed up for Westlake, even won a Geico National Championship back in 2021.
That was a Batman and Robin, and they could change roles as Batman or Robin when those two are together.
On a team like this, I mean, how do you find your way? How do you find your place? Because there are so many great players. How do you find your place and stand out?
I think that the team does a good job of instilling confidence in each other. They all know their players. They're all, I mean, but she got 8 McDonald's All-Americans, so the confidence they instill in each other.
Turnabees, they were asking for her to duck it, instead she takes it in for the easy 2, the hoop and horn. Championships with a trio of them as well.
When I won the championship in '99, reporter asked me how it felt to be the first black woman to win a national championship, and I thought of my high school teacher, Thelma Gann, who taught me in making outlines, you don't have a 1 without a 2. So to be the first, and then for Dawn Staley to not follow up with just 1, but 3, and the potential to get number 4 this season.
And I love just the way that you and her also just pay homage to the women that have come before her, the shoulders that you all stand on. You talked about Marianne Williamson and
Mariana
Freeman and C. Vivian Stringer as well. Six on the shot clock. McDowell, turnaround jumper, won't go. Lampley has it. With Trayana Crisp, we talked about her earlier. Again, she has not done much here tonight, as it has been difficult for Mississippi State here on the road. How challenging is it for you to come in with, wins against Kentucky, along with Tennessee, top 15 teams, and then kind of lay an egg here on the road against South Carolina?
No, the SEC is a gauntlet. Every night you got to bring your A game. Oh, that's a terrific post-up by Okai. But because this league is so talented across the board, there are great coaches in the SEC. I mean, Pat Summitt, when I worked for her, used to say the SEC tournament is harder to win than the NCAA tournament because there's no day in between, and every game is a challenge.
And Dawn Staley talked earlier this week to reporters just about how she hopes that the committee rewards the SEC just because they beat up on each other all throughout the conference season. Inside, a nice give, an extra pass made from Turnabees inside to Tuck, and that's how we close out the third quarter here in Columbia.
Got to, look, keep gathering as many wins as possible because you want that top seat going into the SEC tournament.
South Carolina 35-4 last year, making it all the way to the national championship game, expecting to be a Final Four team again And trying to win it all is one of the preseason favorites in the field.
Yeah, South Carolina, they got to get healthy.
Turnabees with the bucket. She made her college debut against Texas back on January 15th. Got enrolled just in time before the start of the semester.
But you were talking about how does this chemistry build? Well, Allie Turnabees did not get to Columbia, South Carolina until January the 1st, and she already, look, she's fitting in like an old house shoe. Like she's been around a minute.
She's been working a little bit.
You got one of them old house shoes.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
The visual that I have right now is why I can't stop laughing, but she is the one who was whistled for the personal foul. That's now her 4th. So Turnabees, the daughter of Isabel Flau'jae, played at Colorado, is one of the upcoming inductees into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Melissa Richardson knocks down the free throw.
Some great names going into the Hall of Fame. We've got the great Doris Burke, commentator, our colleague, is going in with this class, as well as CP3, Candace Parker.
They say she's the originator. Now she's CP, but you know, CP3, you got to add that because there's only their identity of rebounding the basketball like they normally do and not able to stop South Carolina.
Well, Mississippi State has not been able to get organized on the offensive end because of the pressure of South Carolina's defense.
Madison Francis, freshman, just 7 points on the inbound. It's Crisp who's able to come away with the steal.
But the transition defense of South Carolina, 0 fast break points for Mississippi State.
Play inside to Francis, who puts it up. No, Turnabees gets a hand on it, and it's Francis who wrestles it away. Melissa Richardson looking for a place to go. And a blocking foul along the baseline. And called against Medina Okot. That's her 3rd personal foul.
Just the length of South Carolina is just such a problem.
And again, back to that large size lineup in. We talked about small, medium, and this is large.
I kind of think of the three bears. This bed's too soft.
Bed's too hard.
What was the last one?
Just right.
There you go.
And tonight, it's just been right as Joyce Edwards, who has been outstanding, tied a career high with 6 assists, leads all scorers on the floor with 19. Okot finds Edwards.
Like in her freshman year, she had 5 20-plus games. This is her 14th in her sophomore season.
The sophomores just been continuing to lead the way, and they wanted to see, the coaching staff for South Carolina wanted to see a kind of start to finish from Joyce in terms of her production, and she has certainly done so tonight. A tough take for Madison Francis, a little out of control there, and South Carolina, good defense.
But when I look at Joyce Edwards' stat line, very impressive. 8 of 11 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, those 6 assists. But as a coach, I'm looking, okay, Joyce Edwards only has 1 rebound.
That's one thing that they're going to work on this tape. But look at this comparison. And you were talking about it early, Carolyn, about just some of the great bigs for South Carolina and the jump that they make from their first to second year.
Yeah, comparing Asia Wilson and her jump, Aaliyah Boston. You know, I said this in an earlier game, and the South Carolina fans said, well, you left out Camila Cardoso. Cardoso transferred in, so she didn't have a freshman season here at South Carolina, though there have been, like we talked about, a whole slew of great bigs. Alicia Welch was the first homegrown South Carolinian that came here and put her stamp on this program, and then the others followed.
Just a reminder, we have a men's basketball quadruple header Saturday that starts at 1 Eastern. Featured matchup of the day, though, is Tyler Tanner and number 15 Vanderbilt hosting Oklahoma. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern. And even with the score the way that it is, the fans inside Colonial Life Arena still getting loud and into this one.
Oh, this is a educated and dedicated fan base here in Columbia.
I'm also being told free chicken was on the line as well.
Well, that'll cheer you on. Isla McDowell, 4 of 7 from 3. That's going to be important in South Carolina's run.
And making the most of her first career start, the freshman out of Cypress, Texas. We talked earlier about what Dawn Staley said, the intangibles of that young woman and just how coachable she is. Inside to Miriam Dowda, and Dowda is fouled from behind by Madison Francis. Now checks in for the Bulldogs. As a coach looking through the lens, if you're South Carolina, what does Dawn Staley want to make sure she sees for the remainder of this game with the lead so comfortably in their control?
Well, that's the key thing. With this lead, you can't get sloppy because that's what's going to show up. You got to execute just like that, because that'll show up in film session tomorrow as South Carolina prepares for Tennessee. You can't get sloppy down the stretch now, because in this latter part of the season now, practices are getting shorter because she wants to keep the legs, so you've got to be efficient in what you do.
Flau'jae off the mark. 1 for 20 from downtown, 1 for 21 from downtown tonight. And 2, just the valuable experience that some of these youngsters are gaining. The traveling violation.
You talk about the execution. Raven Johnson knows right to come off that handoff for Turnaby's, and that's going to be her shot. The timing, the chemistry, that's what Dawn Staley's looking to build.
Big round of applause for Raven Johnson. Another great stat line, 10 points, 7 assists to go along with 6 rebounds as well. Again, that lone returning starter from last year's Final Four team. But again, the experience of an Isla McDowell, Alicia Turnaby's, a couple of freshmen, getting valuable minutes so that when this South Carolina roster is back to full strength, they've got more minutes and confidence on their side.
See, that's what you don't want to want. You don't want. Last 2 possessions, 2 turnovers. Like, you can't clock watch. You can't lose your focus and concentration down the stretch for these last 5 minutes. We were here for shoot-around before the Vanderbilt game, and that's when Dawn Staley really had the attention of her team. Said, we're going to play discipline. We're going to run our stuff. There's a certain way and a standard that you have to maintain, and I think this team has not let up since.
Got to get it across. And a half-court violation, and so these are the things that frustrate a coach like Coach Staley. You talked about just not making those miscues and getting sloppy. 3 straight turnovers now for the Gamecocks.
Well, and here's the thing, the expectation of South Carolina. You got your starting 5. The second group, there's no drop-off. And so the standard is set. When you step on the floor, every player that plays has that same expectation.
When they came out and shoot around today, it was happy, light, jovial. Because sometimes players play depend on how they wake up. Whatever their mood is like, how they wake up. And sometimes you have to infuse them to get to focus and what they need to do. She's a master at that.
That's a key thing about Dawn Staley. She has a pulse of her team. And, you know, different days, when they come in different, she's got to get them back to the standard, and she can feel that.
Just like McDowell was feeling her way through the lane, but it also talks to the versatility of a coach to be able to make those types of adjustments with Turnerbees on the block. Madison Francis, who's used to doing the rim rocking, instead it's Turnerbees with the swat.
You know, with the problem that South Carolina's had to get the ball across the court, you wonder if Sam Purcell's thinking, maybe I should have started with that a little sooner. I'm keeping an eye on these other SEC games that are going on. Right now, Tennessee and Georgia are tied up at 57 with less than 6 minutes left to go. And Kentucky has pulled ahead 9 in the third quarter against Vanderbilt.
The Wildcats can get back into the top 16 with a win and a little help from Tennessee with the loss as Adele Tack, or rather Medina Okot with the make. That one finally going down as Chandler Prater with the first made three since the first quarter for Mississippi State. But when you talk about just the remaining games on this second half of the SEC season and regular season coming to a close on March 1st, we look at Charlie Cream's bracketology, the strength of schedule. South Carolina, as you mentioned, one of the toughest remaining schedules. Vanderbilt, Alabama, right there with them, but just no easy day. I mean, number of teams in the SEC in the top 30 in terms of strength of schedule.
South Carolina has Tennessee on Sunday on ABC. Game day will be there. I'm sure Rocky Top will be rocking as South Carolina comes to town. And Kim Caldwell has, you know, the hockey substitution, keeping the depth, fresh legs on the floor. Talaysia Cooper at the front of the press. And a little point guard, Mia Paldo. She's one of my favorites in the SEC.
Oh, she can dazzle with the ball in her hands. A great score. You look at that tail of the tape of the next game coming up for South Carolina. The two teams with only one loss in conference play as of tonight. Cooper, Edwards, to the best when they step on the floor for their teams. That should be a fun one indeed.
Yeah, Mississippi State causing South Carolina some problem getting the ball across half court. Tennessee, that's what they make their living with.
Full court pressure, the Lady Vols provide, and
if you don't have your ticket for Greenville for the SEC tournament, you're going to miss some great basketball. You're going to watch it, though, on the SEC network. We'll be there.
Great plug, partner, great plug.
It just means more.
How about that move from Destiny McFall? There, but McFall, you can't take away.
Collect the bright spots.
Yep.
If you're Sam Purcell, you got to collect the bright spots, learn from your mistakes, because there's plenty of SEC play left.
And as you mentioned, for Mississippi State, some games where they have an opportunity to collect more wins. And after this, they've got Georgia, Arkansas, Florida, Texas A&M, and LSU. And bodies continue to fall to the floor, being batted around. And possession arrow goes to South Carolina.
Talk about finding bright spots. Destiny McFall behind the back. That's a Malaysia Flau'jae move to the hoop.
Flau'jae, who suited up here in South Carolina, now at LSU. While we have this time, just a reminder, coming up next, we've got Ole Miss and Alabama, top 25 matchup in the SEC. And certainly Christy Curry wants to see her team rebound. Coach Yo is loving her front court with Cody McMahon and Christina Walla.
Yeah, that's going to be a battle of in the paint versus threes coming up after this one.
Yeah, Bama loves to launch them from long distance, averaging about 9 or so a game. Turnerbees trying to get in the action from 3 and does. We just can't wait to watch her continue to grow and develop here in South Carolina. Flau'jae with a nice take with the 6'7" Turnerbees with her hand in her face.
I love it. 6'7", got, look, she can shoot the 3. Medina Okot can shoot the 3 at 6'6". Remember that 3 that Camila Cardoso hit against Tennessee in the SEC tournament?
Great launching, and it rattles in. A little too late for the Bulldogs as Joyce Edwards, who helped to power South Carolina with 21 points, 1 of 5 in double figures. Give it up to Isla McDowell in her first career start. Tied a career high with 16 tonight. And a blowout win for the third-ranked South Carolina